Konnichiwa everybody, welcome back. So, bit of video response going round. There's a few at the moment, but been one recently for your favourite game on each system that you own. And I thought this was a cracking idea. I think it started off Tony Street Fighter Alpha 2 Turbo, or it's a long name. Wasn't a channel I was sub to, but found out about it through Retro Red Steve. Great idea for a video, and then I've seen Steve's video, and I've also seen Clint do one as well. So I'll put links in the description to all three of them guys. Go check them out if you haven't. But I thought I'd throw my 2 pence in the hat. I did see a comment of Eddie's on somebody's video saying he couldn't do it because it's too hard to pick, and I do agree. It is very difficult. I've struggled with quite a few of these, to be honest. And I have kind of cheated on a couple. But, you know, it's only a bit of fun at the end of the day. And all these might change. Like, if we did this in 12 months' time, I might have a different opinion. But it's all a bit of fun. First of all, though, I just wanted to start the video off by saying, got a new channel logo. All thanks to the legend that is Clay Graphics. I'd made a ham-fisted attempt at sort of updating the channel logo. And then Clay very kindly got in touch with me and said, would he like me to try and spruce it up a bit? And I was more than grateful, and he did a cracking job. So I'll put it up now. I'm really pleased with it. Again, many thanks, Clay. Much appreciated, mate. You're a true legend. Really pleased with how it turned out, and I'll use that going forwards from now, and I'll stick it on the Instagram as well when I get round to it. But anyway, also go check Clay's channel out. Great channel, buys loads of cool stuff. Cool dude. If you're not subbed to Clay, give him a sub. Again, I'll put a link in the description to Clay's channel. Awesome, thanks mate. Right, on with this list. I'm not going to dwell on anything because it's going to go on too long. Because I've got quite a few systems. I think I've remembered everything. But anyway, there's no particular order, though I will try and group sort of manufacturers together, I think. You know what? I've already forgot something. 1 second. Right, we're back. Don't know how I forgot that, but I did. Anyway. Space Harrier, obviously. We'll start off with where it started for me. The first thing I ever owned as a child, which was the Mighty Spectrum. And we've got the original Renegade. Definitely the best game on the Spectrum for me. Now, to be fair, I was really struggling between 2 or 3, but I just couldn't put anything in front of this. It's better than the arcade, in my opinion. And the 128 version with the music. Right, that leads me on to the Amiga. It's not chronological order, as I said. There was no debate here. If it wasn't for this game, I would probably sell the Amiga, if I'm honest. But I can't. I can't live without this game. And that's the original Lotus Turbo Challenge. This is obviously the budget re-release, but this is the one I had back in the day. I would like the big box one, but it's got crazy money. But just a truly magnificent game. Like I say, can't live without it. I can't sell the Amiga because I'd miss this too much. It's just epic. Right, we'll go. Actually, we'll do that now. Now, this is a very recent addition to the console collection. Philips Video Pack. So I've not got that many games for it. However, this one is a great game. and we've got Crazy Chase, which was called something different in America, Casey Munchkin's Crazy Chase or something. Anyway, it's the sequel to Munchkin, which is like a Pac-Man clone, but this is kind of quite a lot different, and it's really, really good. Lee, ZX Tetley, put a cracking video up about this game last week. Again, I'll put the link in the description. If you want to see gameplay footage of it, check that out. Honestly, really, really good game this is. I'm really liking the video pack, I've got to say. But yeah, that is really, really good. Kind of Pac-Man mixed with Centipede, possibly. That leads me on. We'll do this little section now. This is kind of the vintage section, which I've got into a lot recently, as you're probably well aware. So we've got the 2600, or VCS, as Jace would call it. There wasn't much debate here, I've got to say. This game has been a revelation to me. It's sensational. And it's enduro. Honestly, I can't believe I never played this before. It's such an amazing racing game. Honestly, it's already in my top 10 list of racing games ever made. Honestly, it is amazing. Right, in television, there's only one game for this on for me that was always going to be my favourite and always will be. It made me buy another console because, again, it's one of them games like Lotus on the Amiga. You know, having sold the system, it always bugged me, and I thought, I've got to get that back. And I bought the game before I bought the system, which I don't think I've actually showed on a pickups video yet. Anyway, so Astro Smash, absolutely, again, an amazing game. It's kind of a take on Space Invaders, I suppose, really. Space Invaders, Galaxian, Galaga type game. But honestly, it is sensational. And you know, you can get it on other, you can get it on the 2600. It's on the Evercade as well, but it's just not the same. I don't know what it is, it's just not the same. This is the version you've got to play, or I've got to play. Absolutely love this game, Astro Smash. Right, similar time period, got the Vectrex. Again, not much debate here for me. It's Spike. Oh no! Spike! Molly. Just love this game. I love the speech on it. It's so different to any other original Vectrex game, you know, because they're all kind of space shootery type games in the mouse part, but this is really different, being a platform game. Just love it, Spike. Atari Jaguar. Had one back in the day. I've had one more or less ever since. This is another one of them games I could never sell the Jag because this game is so good. And it's Tempest 2000. One of the greatest games ever made for me. Just, again, magnificent. Yes, you can get it on the Saturn and the PS1, but again, it's just not the same. And it's now on that Atari 50 compilation, which it's worth buying just to play this, in my opinion. Obviously, buying a Jag's a bit extreme these days, given the prices. But honestly, this will always be in my top 10 games of all time. Just love it. Tempest 2000. Right. 3DO. Again, had one back in the day, as soon as I came out in America. Loved it at the time. It was such a massive jump forward. It ain't aged that well in the mouse part, but there are still some fantastic games on it. And this is another one of those, like Tempest, like Lotus Turbo Challenge, like Astro Smash. You can get it on other things, it's just not the same. The 3DO version is by far the best, and it's epic still today. And it's Road Rash. A magnificent game, and still is. Honestly, absolutely brilliant. I've made the same mistake with 3DO in the past and sold it, and regretted it, and had to buy one back just to play this game. It's that good, honestly. The first sort of 32-bit version, you like the Saturn and the PS1 versions were kind of ports of this really, but this is the best. Road Rash. If you played it, you know. PC Engine. I've struggled with this one, I must be honest, because there's lots of good stuff, and you've also got like Hue cards and CDs. Very tough. However, I've kind of cheated on this one because I had to get this game in this sort of selection somewhere, and I chose to put it here, so that might have given it away. It's Outrun. It's not the best version of Outrun you can get, obviously, but for what it's running on, it is truly magnificent. At the time, you know, when you compare this to the Master System version, honestly, the Master System version is so bad. This is an immense conversion for what it's on at the time, and it still plays fantastic today. Obviously, the Saturn version is the best version, and an amazing game. And the arcade version, obviously, is the greatest game ever made. But I had to get Outrun in this little list somewhere, and so I chose, because I was struggling so much with the PC Engine, I thought it's got to be Outrun. Right, we're kind of in the niche import console section here, really. So next up we've got the Neo Geo, and I've kind of cheated here a bit, really, because again I was struggling with the Neo Geo. Very nostalgic system for me. I had one back in the day, AES. You know, when cart prices were crazy money compared with what you were buying for the Mega Drive and SNES, whatever, at the time. But at the time, you know, young, single, free, you could afford these things. So, like I say, it's a very nostalgic system for me. And these games are based on nostalgia. I'm not saying they're the best games on the Neo Geo, because in technical terms they're not, but to me they are. And there was three that are kind of neck and neck for me. So, because I've got like the AES and the Neo CD, I thought, well, I'll pick two of them, one for each, and then the one's just going to miss out. So, for the CD, although I had it for the AES back in the day, and I class it as an AES game to me. However, because I wanted to include three games and I've only got two spots, I've put Fatal Fury on the Neo Geo CD. I know all future versions of Fatal Fury are technically better than this, but I've just got so much nostalgia for this, and it's one of the first AES games I ever had. I'll always love this game more than any of the others, even though they are technically better. I just love the original. Garou Densetsu, the Japanese name. So yeah, that's Fatal Fury 1. So my AES pick is my favourite game on the Neo Geo. It just shades the other two that I was struggling. The one I did, I suppose I'll do an honourable mention. The one I didn't pick for these two out of the three was League Bowling. Again, absolutely love it. The best bowling game ever made. Honestly, it's magnificent. But I couldn't not include Baseball Stars. Again, huge nostalgia for this. This is the reason I bought an AES back in the day. Yeah, I know you think I'm mad, you know, when there's all these cool fighting games, but honestly, I saw this on Games Master, and I think it was Pat Cash playing it, and something clicked. I had to have that game, so I bought an AES. Unfortunately, I've only got the cartridge. It's quite pricey now to get a boxed one. But I live in hope. I'll upgrade one day. But the best sports game ever made, and my favourite game on the Neo Geo. Right, now we're on to the mainline stuff. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo and Sega. The meat and potatoes of video games. Right, we'll go PlayStation first. So PS1, very sort of current topic. I've said it in the videos if you've watched them. Definitely my favourite PS1 game is Rage Racer, and playing this recently has confirmed to me how good this is, and it's still an epically good game. I mean, I love the original Ridge Racer, but this at the time, it felt massive because of all the depth and, you know, all the things you could do and open up on the game. I prefer the more arcadey, sort of bright colours of Ridge Racer, but as a game, magnificent. PS2, there was no contest here, to be honest. It's the Japanese exclusive Sega Rally 2006 pack, but it's not particularly the 2006 game I've picked this for. It's the I've mentioned this before, because it comes in a double pack, and it's got like an arcade perfect version of the original Sega Rally arcade, and that's the game I've picked this for. Just, I mean, Sega Rally was one of my favourite games of all time, and that PS2 port is just, it's like having the arcade at home. Honestly, if you like Sega Rally, I'd say it's worth buying a Japanese PS2 and that game. You know, it's that good. PS3. Now, this is the area where I switched off from gaming, really. And I'm still not very passionate about it, if I'm honest. However, there's one PS3 game that sits far above any other for me, and it never came in a physical version, so I can't show you it because that doesn't exist. But it's Daytona. Again, an arcade perfect port, put out on the PS3 and 360. I had it and downloaded it on the PS3 back in the day, and I've still got my original PS3 with it on, and I still play it to this day. Like playing the arcade. So again, just like that PS2 port of Sega Rally, for me, that is by far and away the best game on the PS3, and always will be. It's just a damn shame they never put a physical version out. Right, PS4. Now, I've struggled with this again, really, because I've not had the PS4, you know, a couple of years, but I've not really put massive amount of time into it, if I'm honest. So I've ended up I've kind of cheated here again, really, in a way. It's not really, but because this was close to being included on the Switch, so I thought I'll use the PS4's version for my pick. And we've got Horizon Chase Turbo. By far and away, this is the greatest game, or greatest racing game made since, God, I don't know, at least 20 years. Since the early noughties, I'd say, this is the greatest racing game ever made. Magnificent. it's very much a remake of Lotus Turbo Challenge on the Amiga, which I mentioned earlier, and Top Gear on the SNES. It's very much a modern version of that. Even some of the music is kind of the same, remixed, the same principles in the game. If you've played it, you know it's truly a magnificent game. I first played it on it was on mobile phone. It started as a mobile phone game, and that's where I first played it and completed it at the time when it came out. And then subsequently I've bought it on like the Switch and the PS4 and maybe the Xbox as well, possibly. I can't remember. Anyway, it's such a magnificent game. If you like arcade races, there's no better one than this. By far and away the best one made in the last 20 years for me. Horizon Chase. Right, that brings me on to the Xbox. Not a console I've ever sort of been that crazy about, if I'm honest. Any of them. But that said, I've always had one up until the three. Well, I've had the first, I had the original and the 360, and then I never bothered. Obviously, there's only one game I can recommend as my favourite on the original Xbox. Arguably the greatest game ever made, along with the original Outrun. It's the nostalgia makes the original Outrun the best game ever for me, but with the sensible cap on, Outrun 2 is better. So, greatest game ever made, and it's the same as the arcade on the Xbox. So, and you can take your pick, either this one or the original Outrun 2. I class them as the same game myself. I've just picked this one up here to show on the camera, but they're the same game. Nothing else comes close to it. And like I said, just that Horizon Chase is the best racing game ever made since this, for me, no question. So yeah, enough said. I'd sell all other Xbox games if pushed. I wouldn't sell that. That takes me on to the 360, and this is a very similar story to the PS3 for me. Really switched off gaming at this point, lost all interest, and again I've never really gained it back. I just dabble in it from now and again from time to time, but it doesn't grab me like the older stuff. However, since I've got into shooters, the 360 has taken on a more sort of pivotal role, and my opinion on it has changed a bit, because there are some damn good games on the 360, especially in Japan, which never came out here. But there was one that made me sort of invest in a modded system to play these Japanese shooters, and it's Raiden Fighters. Obviously, I love Raiden. That reminds me, I haven't actually included Raiden in any of these lists here. I could have put Raiden in with the PC Engine rather than Outrun, but I'd got to get Outrun in, so I'm digressing. This is fantastic. Obviously, it's a sequel to Raiden and Raiden 2, 3, 4. Don't bother with 5, which is awful. But this one is locked on the 360. It's never been released on anything else to my knowledge. What a magnificent game. Like I say, there's many great Jap shooters on the 360, but for me this is by far and away the best one. It's the first one I bought off Craig, and it's by far the best one for me. Raiden Fighters Aces. That brings me on to the Xbox One. Now, I never had one of these up until when I rebought the PS4 a couple of years ago. And even then, I wasn't keen, to be honest. But when I built that driving cab in the arcade, and I used an Xbox One as a basis for the console to use for it, for all the driving games. That's finally got me playing a bit on the Xbox One, and it's through that I've managed to come up with this pick, because it's the game I've played most on the arcade cab. Project Cars, which is obviously like a Gran Turismo style game, really. So good. Someone did leave a comment saying Project Cars 3 is actually better and more arcadey. I've not got round to trying that yet, so when I do, maybe I'll think that is better. But for now, like I say, I've played most of this on the arcade cab, and I do think it's a particularly good game. So that's my pick for the Xbox One. Now, my experience of it is very limited, so, you know, take that with a pinch of salt. Nintendo. I didn't struggle too much with the original NES or Famicom. I've always loved this game. My brother had it back in the day when he had his Nintendo, and I loved it then, and I've loved it ever since. Unfortunately, there's no Famicom version, which really irritates me, because I've got rid of 95% of my American NES carts, but because the ones I'm now left with are ones you can't get on the Famicom, which I find really annoying, because I've got like 4 or 5 games which I'd ideally like to sell, but I can't. Anyway, RC Pro-Am, made by Rare, obviously some kind of isometric radio control car racing. Something about this game, absolutely love it. So good. Kind of like, I suppose it plays like Rock and Roll Racing on the Super Nintendo, but on a more simplistic level. But it's so good, honestly. RC Pro-Am. Then there was no SNES. Now we're on to absolutely no debate here. There's only one game on the SNES that was going to be my favourite. F-Zero. Truly magnificent. Stunning game. Again, loved it right from when I first played it back in the day, and still love it to this day. Still plays fantastic. Why the hell have Nintendo abandoned this franchise? Could it be upselling and merchandising, or the lack of opportunity? That's my bet. Anyway, F-Zero. Just again, N64, the fugly 64, if you're Dave. There was no debate here. Wave Race. One of the greatest games ever made for me. Certainly the best water effects in any game ever made for me. Far better than the GameCube sequel. Again, another abandoned Nintendo franchise that they need to bring back yesterday. It's just stunning. It still looks and plays stunning to this day. This is one of them games I would own the system just to play this. It's that good. Wave Race 64. Then we're on to the GameCube. My leg's gone to sleep. F-Zero GX. The last instalment of F-Zero, unless you count those Game Boy Advance ones. Why have they abandoned this? I mean, this is so good, and still looks and plays amazing today. This is the one Sega had something to do with making, isn't it? I think. But yeah, I've owned this from new. Never sold it. Still in mint as new condition. Just stunning game. Right, we're on to the Wii now. Obviously a console from the PS3 360 era. I did actually use the Wii more at the time. Probably because it was more normal and had more in common with older games than the 360 and the PS3 did. There was 2 games here I was toying between, but I can't put anything in front of this because it's so good. It's Ghost Squad. Quite a few good light gun shooters on the Wii. but there's none as good as this. Just pure Sega arcade magic, and it's dirt cheap. It's like £1. If you've got a Wii, it's a must-own. Ghost Squad. That brings me on to the 3DS, my only handheld console. I've been close to selling it quite a few times, but something stops me. I think I'd regret it if I did, but never say never. When funds are needed, it might end up going, because I'm not a handheld gamer, I've got to say. I've kind of cheated here. I have got a few DS games as well, because obviously they run on a 3DS. So I technically could have picked a DS game as well, but like I say, I've slightly cheated here, and I've had to go with the Sega 3D Classics trilogy. Two of which are exclusive to Japan, unfortunately, and these are the reason I had to buy a Japanese 3DS to play these, because they're just so amazing. Compilations of Sega, classic Sega games for the 3DS. You know, you've got like 5 or 6 games on each one. Space Harrier, Fantasy Zone, Outrun, Bare Knuckle, what's that Shinobi sequel called on the Mega Drive? Super Shinobi in Japan. Shinobi 3. Echo. I mean, that's terrible. Then we've got Power Drift. I mean, what a game. Puyo Puyo, Galaxy Force, Thunderblade, Sonic, Fantasy Zone, and what's the other one? I don't know, anyway. And then the third one's got Turbo Outrun on, so, you know, Alien Syndrome, Afterburner, Super Hang-On, Bare Knuckle 2, Thunder Force, Gunstar Heroes, Sonic 2. They are just fantastic. Definitely my favourite games on the 3DS. Wii U then we're up to. Now obviously I had a full set of these, though to be fair I never played most of them. They've now mostly gone. But definitely my favourite game on the system is one I had when I first bought it, when it was launched. I had this game and Nintendo Land, which was bundled with it, and this was the game I bought. Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. Such a great game. Thought it at the time, and it's still fantastic now. This is my original copy from new. It's certainly the best Sonic racing game ever made. Magnificent kart racer, but obviously it transformed. Obviously, throughout the stage you start flying. But great game. I mean, you can get it on the 360 and the PS3 as well, should you need to. I've never had either version myself. That then brings me up to date with the Switch. There was only one game I could pick here. Now, obviously, if you watch this channel, you know the kind of games I like to play, and it's highlighted in all the ones I've shown so far. So that kind of will tell you how highly I think of this game, because it's not a game I would ever play necessarily, and it's totally sort of against the grain for me. It's Breath of the Wild. Seems to be a Marmite game. Some love it, some hate it. I fall in the love it camp. I don't know what it was. Like I say, it's not the kind of game I usually play. Something just got me hooked on this, and I thought it was magnificent. And it's such a stunning game, and I still think it to this day, so I've got to put that as my favourite Switch game. So, nearly at the end now. Of course I've left the Sega till last, because Sega is the best. Master System. There was no debate here. Hang on. It was bundled with the original Master System one I had. So at the time it was the only game I'd got. So obviously there's a lot of nostalgia talking for me. But I truly believe this is a fantastic game. It still plays fantastic today. Absolutely love it. Hang on. Mega Drive. Again, no debate here for me. Bare Knuckle 2. Or Streets of Rage 2, if you like. By far and away the best game on the Mega Drive. One of the greatest games ever made. Magnificent. I'm sure you've played it. If you haven't, why? 32X. Not a stellar console, it has to be said. I've still got my original one, which is what's running here actually, from back in the day. And this game, again, is my original from back in the day, brand new. By far and away the best game on the console for me. Virtua Racing. Up until the Switch port, I mean, this was still the best way to play Virtua Racing. And, you know, it's still great, has to be said. It is a fantastic version. It leaves you thinking what the 32X could have been. You know, should have been more of this stuff. Super scalers, arcade ports, and it turned into such a turd. However, worth owning for this, I'd say. This and Star Wars. You can forget all the rest, in my opinion. The Saturn. One of the greatest consoles ever made. Not much debate here. Enough said. It might look slightly rough, but it don't half play well. And it's just like the arcade to play. No finer game. If you own a Saturn, you need to own this. And this is my original one from back in the day, which I've always kept. It's this lovely chrome effect box on the US version. Sega relic. Dreamcast. Struggling here. There's lots of good stuff on the Dreamcast. Finally, when the arcade came home, so I've ended up with two. Soul Calibur. So good. To this day, it's so good. It just can't. It just looks and plays absolutely brilliant. I couldn't not mention this. It's so good. I'd rather play this. I mean, the sequels are great, but this for me. But then I was going to leave it at that for the Dreamcast, and then I thought about this, and I thought, that needs to be mentioned. So I'm going to have to end with this. And it's Yu Suzuki Gameworks. Obviously it's a Japanese exclusive. But basically, I mean, it's a book of artwork really, with a disc, with 5 arcade games on it. And we've got Hang On, Space Harrier, Outrun, Afterburner 2 and Power Drift. So it's like, you know, 5 arcade games in one collection really. So in a way I've included Outrun again really. It's just a shame because this was sort of labelled Volume 1. It's a shame they never brought out more versions of these, you know, with more games on them. But I thought I needed to mention that for the Dreamcast because it's pure arcade gold. And there we go. I think that's my favourite game for every system I currently own. Be great to see a few more of these if you feel like doing one yourself. Give it a bash. Good fun. And check out the other videos like I say. Thanks for watching. Sayonara.